Okay, here we go. Ooh. Yeah, old Boiny here is really moved down. Come on, Boiny, come and show everybody who you are. Come on, move over that way. That's it. There we go. He's shy. No. Call me Will. Will is the name I've chosen. It's my Paratopian name. I've chosen it because the meaning of the word, the verb form, the verb meaning, not the auxiliary word for future tense. I will do something. I could say I plan to do something. But I can't say I will do it because I don't know. I might not be around. The ceiling could fall down on me right as we're speaking. Which I think would be kind of a fun little scene to, reenact, and somehow, green screen it into this scene or something, Let's see, how do you do it? Right, there's got to be a way, right? There's how hard would it be to right now make something that it just looks like the, just take a bunch of broken up, what do you call it? Wallboard, from demolition site. Just get a bunch of it and have some way of having it all come down all at once. And then go. As a wiki producer, I'm always thinking about stuff like that. We could do amazing things. Each of us, on our lonesome. And imagine what we could do with a couple of friends. On a regular basis. I went to this panel at the film festival. And it was a panel of documentarists. So all the films were documentaries. One on poverty. One on abusive religious schools. One on one of the great pieces of music ever composed. One of the questions the moderator asked, which I think is a very telling question. And he answered it the important part of it is just that he asked it at all. And even in it, he asked it sort of jokingly. He said, we're having a contest to see which one of these projects took the longest. And it wasn't very clear. People had a hard time saying, well, what was the actual start, and there was all the, there were other projects going on too. So like 7 years, 6 years. Oh, we were only 3 years. And then I walked out when the question was, where do you get your funding? Because I'm not interested in that. Because I think that's part of the whole issue. 20th century media was mediated by an industry, a requirement for an industry, just as this, the sorry, I was about to say something that didn't. Forget it. Just as the whatever, you fill in the blanks, and if you can't, it ain't important. Don't have to. In fact, don't worry about it. I don't even remember what the hell I was talking about. Sorry, I needed to finish that. I don't know why I just finished in the middle. I mean, I didn't finish, I just stopped. Okay, so I finished. 20th century media required all this whole industry. I mean, at that level, industry, the film industry, and and it's got a long history because the film industry is older than the TV industry. I guess even older than the radio industry. And it's kind of interesting that that this festival, we talk about film festivals. Film is really talking about a technological medium. The stuff that we no longer use. And stuff that, because of the nature of it, the physical nature of film, which only allowed editing through having all army of people who cut and paste. And you've got it, so you divide it up. Like there's the directors and the editors and the actual copy and paste type editors versus the higher level editors. I don't really know much about the whole editing process within the industry because I've been focusing on 21st century editing, which relies to a much greater extent on self-editing, which is a little trickier. Maybe that's Y2K. We're in the middle, where people such as myself we feel we've got to first create a whole milieu in order to to have the kind of editing that we imagine can work for us. In other words, not editing that is, well, I don't know. I'm getting a little complicated. Because you see, I think we keep thinking about the process in terms of how it has been. And if we ever start using a word like film, the process in terms of making film, I mean, we're obviously nobody uses film anymore. It's video. Why isn't this a video festival? Well, because the word film obviously isn't just referring to the medium. But if you're really going to go for what what we're talking about, what the thing is, the word movie is very applicable. Movie being a slangy version of moving image is that's what we're doing. As opposed to audio. Radio is the medium for distribution, one medium for distribution of audio. But radio isn't, we talk, and TV is a medium for distribution of film at first, and now video, because nobody thinks about making a film and then somehow transferring it to TV as it used to be done, or however it's done, Yeah, don't they take a video of the movie being shown? Isn't that what TV was for a while? I mean, they make a film and then they're videoing the film, I think. Actually, I don't know. The point is now nobody's making films. The process of going from this tune that's in my head to having it develop so that I can not only use my right hand for the tune, but have my left hand do harmony. It's a process that takes time, like everything. It's a process. That evolves over time. The process of taking something inside and actualizing it. Each thing that you're doing is going to have something a bit different about it. But even if you're talking about something very specific to do, if you do it and then another person does almost exactly the same thing, it's going to be a different process. Though there might be certain pieces along the way, certain important kind of elements that you say, okay, the process starts off. So I embark upon a quest to tilted windmills, to go like where no man has ever gone but Madeline. You know that girl who walked with 11 other girls in 2 straight lines, come rain or shine. The littlest one was Madeline. She was not afraid of mice or lice, and she popped them in her mouth. I mean, they didn't really feed them all that well at the orphanage, you know. It's after World War II. Someday I'm going to get up the courage to do what Madeline, my heroine, would do. Madeline, oh Madeline, my heart is thine. Because to the tiger in the zoo, you just said poo poo. Oh my God. Madeline, will you do that again? But not too often, I'm not sure my heart can take it. What I'm doing, and what I plan to continue to do, because I've been doing it for a long time, but now I'm bringing together some other elements of the technology of capturing life. Either just purely audio, the recorder like this is talking. Right now this recorder is hooked up to the piano, giving higher fidelity, I think, than what would be happening through the computer. I'm just using my computer right now, my MacBook, using a QuickTime camera thing to capture what I'm doing. Dealing with various things like the fact that Apple has, in its infinite wisdom, decided that the monitor should be what is to be backwards. In other words, in my sense of where I am, my head is facing that way, right? Except the only reason I was able to point that way was because it's my hand knows where my head is. On the other hand, pointing to that thing over there, that's on the wall. Look at that. See what I just did? You realize that I meant to do that. That's what I meant to do. And I said, oh, look at that thing on the wall. Let me point. Well, this time, I think because I've had the experience, it worked better. But you saw the way I went the first time. And that's Apple. That's Apple for you. They don't even have an option to flip it around. You look at your phone thing, and it doesn't do that. You know, a phone camera that's
that faces you, doesn't do that. But Apple, in its infinite wisdom, has been doing this for years and years and years. Doesn't even offer an option, which would be a little bit of code. Just switch it around. It's like 3 lines of code or less. 1 line of code. Flip it. Is that all that difficult, Apple? Why don't you do that? Is it because you're different? Different. You know, there are a couple of spellings for that word. The short spelling, the sort of the real core spelling. I mean, the short spelling it's fortunate that it's short because it's what it's really all about. But I mean, it's the word, it's the brand form of the word. Well, they got different, which is they own it. Think different. So if you ever say think different in regard to Apple, you are referring to whatever they think they own it. They think what does different mean? They certainly don't mean differently because they would have put the ly there unless they were really concerned about extra ink. I mean, that's a little 20th century, don't you think? I mean, you're not really using extra ink, and for the most part, the pixels. I mean, Apple. I mean, what do you say? What are you saving? I guess there is ink on all those print ads and stuff, of which there are fewer and fewer, right? Who looks at print ads? Big billboards. Okay, yeah, I could. You know what? Now I finally got it. Now I understand why Apple doesn't say think differently. Think about all the extra paint and the concern that Apple has for the environment. Why waste that paint on saying think differently? Oh, why? What's that all about? That would make the word think. That would modify it. Would mean think differently from those who would have you think a certain way. Think for yourself. 'Cause I won't be there for you. It's that Beatles song thing. Anyway, think different. Justin Long is that actor who I don't really know much about. The only reason I know his name is because he has a house on a lake where my in-laws have 2 houses. Yeah, and so his arrival there was quite. Whoa, Justin Long is here. Who the heck is Justin Long? He on some show. Oh, what show is that? I don't know. I don't really watch anything. But haven't you seen the commercials for Apple where there's the guy that's got, he's got the big thick glasses and he's got a bunch of manuals in his hand and he's showing us, he says, this is my latest neat machine. It's a window. It's got windows, which, shh, did they know? I know it's a copy of Apple because Apple did everything that's important to do. When they came up with the GUI, the GUI, the graphic user interface, which Bill Gates just is not in his vocabulary. That idea, would never think such a way. But I mean, he went pretty far, I would say, old Bill Gates. But that wasn't his contribution. The graphical user interface to Steve Jobs and whomever else. Steve Wozinski maybe was also involved. I don't really know. Who is the one really behind the whole thing? What thought we about that? But anyway, I was getting off the topic. Oh God, that sounds worse. You don't want to hear that. Stop banging on the piano. Okay, Boydie. Okay, I'll stop banging on the piano. The process of taking something internal and getting it out, if done multimodally, multimodalizing is allowing other modalities of thought, and modalities of thought can be certainly the 5 sense, like the thinking that is more is visual versus auditory versus smell or taste, that tactile feeling the surface of something, but also all the the senses that we have that have to do with where our muscles are at any where our I mean where our body parts are at any one point and how they're moving and all that. There's a lot of stuff going on there. It's a very important subsystem which we in general don't think of like in verbal terms, but a lot of cognitive processing goes on. I mean, and an unbelievable amount of cognitive processing goes on at all times until we die. Really, an unbelievable amount all the time. Well, we've got trillions. That's with that T. We're not talking about billions. We're talking about trillions. Trillions. Don't try to count that high. It really doesn't work. I found that out. I didn't even get to a trillion on my. I had this thing. I was at it for quite a while. I think. How long was it? Oh, about yeah. Yeah, about 3.5 years. People thought I was a little screwy, but you see, I had it in me that if I could just count the number of molecules in 1 gram of water, which, by the way, is merely an 18th, just a mere fraction of Avogadro's number. So it isn't 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. It's like 1/3. Let's see, a third of 6 to yeah. What is 3.33 times 10 to the 22nd. It's a very big difference. It really means spending a lot less time at the end. I mean, if you can knock off at 3.33 times 10 to the 22nd, you're saving yourself a lot of time. Believe me. I mean, I'm not kidding about that. Being that 10 to the 23rd is 10 times as many as 10 to the 22nd. So, that's really good. You really save a lot. Well, we're talking about saving an 18th. Oh, you're only going an 18th as far. Right? Or you're going to 17/18ths. Maybe that's what you're going to. It doesn't really matter because, I mean, I did have a lot of time to think about this while I was counting, although I was really working very hard on figuring out how to fit more numbers per second into by counting. I was pretty good at it after a while. And, the problem with counting to this kind of super counting that I was involved in, I was on a team for a while. And it was during that time when I decided that I was really just going to do it. Just do it on my own. I couldn't rely on other people. I was going to do this thing. And I set the bar low enough, or so I thought. Just, the number of molecules in just 1 gram rather than 18 point whatever grams. So even less than an 18th. What am I saying? I said 17, 18. No. Oh, I'm still confused. I still am confused. Right. An order of magnitude is 10 times. So this is 1.8 times 10 times. 1.8 orders of magnitude. Doesn't sound like much, but believe you me, I saved myself a lot. Or I would have saved myself a lot if I had gotten to that, as opposed to just continuing on. In fact, to this very day, I would be counting I'd still be counting. 999 duodeco quadrillion 999 duodec. Oh, you know what? Forget about it. It's a lot, and I had it all down where I was able to write to say these numbers so fast. Well, I had a code. I mean, obviously, I wasn't gonna. Let's get down to a little bit closer to home. Like I wasn't gonna say, it's hard when you get into 999 billion 999 million, 999,999. 1 trillion! Good. So, so you actually come up with a code. And the code, well, if you were to hear when I was at my peak, when I was doing quite a few numbers per second, and I was up into large numbers. So, I was, every single number was a large number until I got to the next, order of magnitude, and then I could just say, well, you know, 1 trillion instead of the number before 1 trillion is a lot. The number after 1 trillion is 1,000,000,001. It's easy. You have to go quite a long ways to get into that same bunch of mess. In fact, when you're going from trillion to quadrillion, you're really having these long numbers. I mean, they're even longer. But it's okay because you've got your coding system, so that you're obviously not saying, oh, you're just saying the thing that I said before plus one, the thing, and then now the thing that I just said with the plus one, and I just had to every once in a while check in, say, am I on track here? Let me double check with the background counter that was going on, just the double checker to make sure I didn't skip anything. Somebody finally convinces me. They say, you're never going to do it. And I say, I'm getting better. I keep going faster and faster. I'm going to do it. I don't care. I'm young, so I have years and years and decades. It's okay. And just think where my name will be in the Guinness Book of World Records. So, I'm doing it, and my family and my friends all think that I'm called pokey, and they turn their backs on me. But that's all right, because I'm just doing it. And finally, somebody convinced me. He said, look, I'll tell you what. I'll take over from you for the amount of time it takes you to go and get yourself a calculator. I mean, here's a calculator. I'm going to give it to you. Okay, keep counting until I explain this to you. Keep going, because I really did never want to stop. I mean, I had to stop every once in a while to sleep and eat and stuff, which is rough. I mean, I know I could do it while I was eating it. And I got pretty good at it. I was getting in there where I was dreaming most of the night about numbers, and it was really helping me. So I could wake up with, wow, I'm not as far ahead as if I were awake all night, but I'm glad I'm keeping on moving, So this guy he convinces me, says, okay, I got it. I've learned your code. I'm going to count for you. Well, and here's the calculator, and I want you to think about at the rate that you're currently going, and then build into that the acceleration, because you are accelerating. There's no doubt about it. You just keep getting better and better and better. But I just for the sheer giggles of it. That's what he said. He said just for the sheer giggles of it. And that's when I knew that he was a Robert Crumb reader. I didn't say you was ruined. I said you was destroyed. That was a Zap comic, circa 1972 or 3. So anyway, the guy, he got to me when he said that, just for the sheer giggles of it. I want you to, and I thought it would be good for a laugh, and I was actually thinking, I mean, there were a couple of thoughts that were going through my mind. One was, well, this might be good for a laugh. I mean, he said for the sheer giggles of it. That sounds good. I mean, I haven't had a lot of time to laugh recently. I'm looking forward to the award ceremony when I'm going to laugh as much as I want, because I won't be counting anymore, The victory lap around the Olympic Stadium. I did it! I counted how many molecules were in 1 gram of water. And I was so at it. I mean, perseverance, the highest form of art. Really.
because perseverance somehow takes it all in and says, okay, yeah, keep falling on your face, everybody's laughing at you, bugga boo. But as much as you are open to input and you want to know what seems to be going wrong, you do want to know that there's something in you that says, look, you're getting it. You're getting it. You're getting it. There's something in there. It's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to come out. Just keep going, going, going. And maybe it'll come out and you won't even realize it. You keep going, going, going. Then you'll fall on your face and get in trouble and whatever. And when you're sitting in prison because, oh my God, how did that happen? I got set up, didn't I? Which happens. People do get set up. I don't personally expect it to happen to me. This is a full example. So you're sitting in jail saying, how did that happen? And then when you're sitting there in jail because you screwed up somehow, you go, well, what a failure I am. You realize that there's that guy over there who's saying something that you're sort of familiar with. He's talking to somebody, he's talking about something important. You realize. Them's is my words. That I managed to get across effectively, apparently, because he's talking about he obviously heard me. Ah, hallelujah! I can stop counting now. Oh no, I can't start actually trying. You see, that was earlier on in my life when I felt I had to prove something in order to be heard. Instead of focusing on just making it as clear as possible so that people can hear me. But I had to go through a whole long period of the wrong people hearing me. People who feel threatened by possibility. Why would people feel threatened? Is somebody just dancing? Gotta call the cops. People get upset when they are confronted with a reality. Or the reality in life is that life is what we make it. As much as we have, there's certain things that we have no control over, like how long it's going to be. So we can do things to be careful, or we can do things to actually we have much greater control over how quickly we die than how long we live. It's much more controllable and predictable if what you're setting out to do is to take something that's already built and tear it down. So if that thing you're trying to tear down is very well guarded, you're going to get into a lot of trouble if you do it. You're not going to be allowed to. They'll just kill you. I mean, if that's what you're stepping on the toes of the kind of people who go around with guns or money paying people, get rid of that guy. Just get rid of him, The kind of people who, in fact, can call the police and have the police act as their personal neighborhood bouncers. We don't like you in our neighborhood. We're going to have the police get rid of you. I know those people. Bruce Springsteen's neighbors. He only has one neighbor on the whole half-mile long road. He owns the land on both sides, except at one end, on one side, there are these neighbors who I'm pretty confident are the ones who ordered the police twice to get me out of there. And the police came the first day. What are you doing? I said, this is what I'm doing. Who are you? What are you doing? Here's my license. Yes, I got arrested for having something in my car that I use to modulate my energy levels. It's the kind of thing that people have used for thousands of years. It, like everything else, can be abused. But there's a reason why it's been used for thousands of years all around the world. But the people in New Jersey, the enforcers, say, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. So that was what was on my record. I had under 1 gram of cannabis. That was my crime, for which I was under supervision for a year. And at the end of the year, even though I was in California, they made me send a urine sample. And then, because my urine sample tested positive for the presence of THC, which I told them what happened. Because I live in a state where there is medical marijuana, and I have a license to use it. And they called me to court in New Jersey. I had to go to court. I didn't go to court. They sent a letter. And for all I know, I now have another warrant out for my arrest, but I doubt it. My wife will send me another unpleasant email saying, "You got another warrant from a court." Although what it should say is the charges against you have been dismissed. They better. I mean, charges. What kind of charges? You mean a year ago you caught me with under 1 gram of marijuana in my car? Then I've been living 3,000 miles away, and I'm now being charged with what? Excuse me. I wrote a little letter to the judge, which I had on this website, and I'm going to put it back up. But I realized just by itself, In fact, I'm not going to put it up at this point anyway, unless somebody asks me. So yeah, if you want to read that letter, I'm kind of proud of it, because the first part is sort of focused on why I shouldn't be there and why it's the probation officer didn't tell them, I mean, this guy was a total schnook. I don't even want to go there. Oh, it's in the letter. So the part of it had to do with him. But then the next piece is where I say, look, the reason that I got arrested was, why did the police find something in my car? Because I showed them my car, because I wanted to get my dog out of the car, and I told them, I was showing them, yeah, you see, this is where I live, this is what I do. You see, I'm being completely open. I smell raw marijuana in this car, and what you can do, you can cooperate, and it'll be okay. If you don't cooperate, you're gonna be in big trouble. And that's what she said to me, oh Connie. Johnny Snodgrass. No, that's not her name. Carrie. Carrie Nation, we'll call her. The reality is her first name is Carrie, and I'm gonna... You know what? No, the time I really talk to Carrie, I'm gonna be saying you, Carrie, because you did that to me. And you know what kind of person I am. You know you went around telling everybody what kind of gentleman I am. And I was. And I was a gentleman to you. And you chose to rob me of $1,000. And in a hassle a year later, you did that to me, Carrie, and it was your choice. Nobody was there. Nobody else smelled it. You did it to me. And I plan to make sure that you know what you do, because I'm sure you do it a lot. You work in that town that's got a lot of poor people and a lot of black people. And I know what you do, and we're going to start keeping tabs on people like you, all of you. And some of you are not bad people. Some of you got into the police force because you actually thought you were going to serve and protect. And then you learned. Well, maybe you can do a little bit of that, but your job is get people in. Find a way to make people know who is in charge. And that's what you're doing, Ms. Carrie. That's what you're doing. You are not... What in the world kind of protection about the law could possibly be? Oh, somebody called the police because you were dancing. You are showing me your car. I smell marijuana in your car. And I'm going to make sure the full weight of the law comes down on you. And by the way, don't think about fighting it, because it ain't gonna work, because we found your stuff. Now, of course, if you had refused, and we then went ahead and did the search, then after spending thousands of dollars, your lawyer could get you off. That's justice in this here, well, great state of New Jersey. Well, I'll tell you something, Poochie Coo. Things is getting worse and worse and worse, and either you are gonna realize the error of your ways and start working with us and start saying, yes, it's true, my bosses want me to be an agent of control, and that is not what the taxpayers and the citizens of this nation want. We don't want to be deprived of our First Amendment rights to dance in the street. 6 times in jail, 5 times arrested. Every time it was because I was dancing. And then people go, oh, what kind of dancing were you doing? Excuse me. If I were dancing naked, I would have told you. If I was doing obscene gestures, I would have told you. I was dancing. I was dancing. And for that, the last time I was arrested, I was also the victim of attempted homicide, which would have been justified. Well, the attempted homicide was justified by, quote, resistance. I resisted. I was standing there in one place with my arms up in the air. A police officer 8 feet in front of me, another one 8 feet behind me. A motorcycle cop comes up, he gets off of his motorcycle. I'm standing there like this, with my hands up in the air. He comes over, he grabs one hand as fast as he can, grabs the other one. And you know what? Arms don't go. The arms are not like pieces of fabric, for example. Arms are not even like pieces of, say, a rubber tube, which can't go faster than a certain thing, but a rubber tube does not have active, protective response. APR, APR. We have spindle cells in our muscles. They're called the spindle cells. Long spindle cells. And they have a very specific purpose. They are the ones to say, to recognize when the muscle's being stretched. And when it gets stretched too much or too far or too fast, these spindle cells have one extremely important protective purpose. They set up a reflexive response that does not go up to the head. No, nobody's thinking about this. When my arm goes like that, I don't even recognize that when I did this, I'm stretching these muscles. And it did not go as fast as it would have gone if I, boom, like that. It's slowing me down in order to protect my elbow. If there was nothing stopping it at the end of every movement, the bone would bang, would want to go too far, and only the ligaments would keep it from going too far. We have active protective responses, and that is what these guys use. They don't understand the physiology or the neuroanatomy. No, they don't need to understand. They know what they're told. You pull their arm really fast, and then they're going to resist. And then you say that. Say, oh, resisting, boom! And then that's it. And that's what he did to me. Pulled him around so fast that I was resisting. And so he goes, okay. You see, that was it. Okay. And the other two people are there. At this point, they're not there to make sure that this guy doesn't get hurt. That's not what they're there for. We'll find out whether they are going to tell the truth or not about what really happened, what they both saw. We'll find out. And when they perjure themselves, which they will, we will say, okay, these guys are liars. No department's lying. Is that the kind of police that we really want? Maybe we could get people who are intelligent, thoughtful, and caring. Ex-Boy Scouts, for example. Trustworthy, loyal, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Well, how many Boy Scouts become police officers? Firefighters, maybe. EMS people. And in some places, the police force actually is there to protect and serve. But that's definitely the unusual situation. So, on that score, I think it's time for me to say thank you for listening, joining me. I think as you can tell, I like to enjoy now. I like to have fun with it. I also like to get serious. I think we have a lot of work to do, and we're doing it. We're starting, and that's very exciting. And my role is to say, hey, everybody, do you realize we really can do this thing? We have the ability. Gandhi managed to get through to X% of the 350 million Indians who were living in 1948. What percent? Probably pretty darn. Probably less than 1% is my guess. Much less than 1%. He didn't have 3.5 million people. Well, maybe he did. It doesn't matter. I mean, that would be 3.5 million people. 1%. Maybe he had 3%. But whatever it means, whatever it is, the very important thing is, you walk down the street and you pass 100 people. The number of those people who actually had to get off their tush and say, you know what, I am a pretty intelligent person. I've been pretty successful in my life. maybe not, so, I'm not rich. Money's still kind of a hassle, but I can do it. I figured it out. Or, I figured out how to make a bunch of money. And I really don't need to worry about money no more. Well, those people especially. Anybody who says, I don't need to worry about money. I got my investment counselor to take care of me. Now my wealth keeps growing every year, for heaven's sakes. And even if it never increased a penny, I'd have enough money for the rest of my life. You people, what are you doing with your life and your money? What the hell? You're spending your time trying to make more money? Maximize how much money because you have $200 million. I mean, that's only 200 million. I mean, there are people with $1 billion, with 10, 20 billion. Why stop at 200 million? Well, actually, I think there's good reason to, because there are other things in life. And people who have success, have security, I should say, must understand that financial security can be nothing in a period when law and order breaks down. Or it also means nothing if there's a dirty bomb that is finally assembled and smuggled in, maybe right, by anybody, maybe by the kind of people who want to induce hysteria so that they could really take over. I mean, just like the Reichstag fire. I mean, that could be the reason for it. I mean, there are many people think that the World Trade Center bombing, I personally am not one of those, by the way. I don't think that Tush and company had anything to do with making it happen. I do think that all their shenanigans over time, them and there are the other guys too. I mean, just the whole, and it's not the presidents doing it. I mean, the presidents are sort of the head chumps. I mean, the presidents are chumps for the big guys. Presidents don't become president. They don't have any effectiveness if they're not working for the really powerful. And this is an important thing. Don't spread this around. But the really powerful are those who can marshal the wealth that exists within, and who can join forces with others who can harness the wealth, the riches, the Shangri-La that we were born with. Multimodalizing, by the way, which I began to talk about before. Don't worry, I'm beginning to realize that this is what I do. I talk and do whatever else I do, and it either
make sense to you or it doesn't. Since part of this parroting thing where we use technology, well, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Parroting is about feedback, pure and simple. Technology can be very helpful because technology can just capture things, record things, which is great. It doesn't record our internal thoughts, but parroting started out as a practice, just a self-awareness kind of practice of the channeling the main line of our internal thoughts. I mean, we have this internal thought system going on all the time. And the idea is to take the words that are the most helpful words to let out, so that then we hear it, along with anybody else who might be listening. Other people might have a hard time following us because much of what we do is internal, and it actually wouldn't come out of our mouth. We can't say everything we're thinking. It's hard enough to say one thing at a time. And that's the result of the practice is learning how to say one thing at a time. Considering other things.
hour and 15 minutes. 5.43 gigabytes. So stop already, boy. Come on. Stop. That's typical. Okay, so let's practice.